Hello, I'm Sinéad, and today I'm going to show you how to make up the cat bee from my cat's pattern for making a 1/8 and a 1/4 scale cat. The cat A is this simple pillow cat. Let's see here. And I don't think it really needs a video to tell you how to do it. The pictures are pretty clear, and he has just the simple tail on the back of his pillow and button eyes and a little bit of embroidery if you want to do it. The other cat, and this cat will be is in the pattern in the two different sizes. The cat B is this style of cat, and it has applied ears and looks like it's walking and maybe a little bit frightened of something or excited. Its tail is in the pattern applied, and this is the 1/4 scale, and this one is the 1/8 scale. Both of these cats were based on Wikipedia's idea of a house cat, which is kind of small. So I find that in the Barbie 1/6 scale, both cats work. One as what you would consider a kind of large cat, and one as a kind of small cat. So they, as you can see, are different sizes from each other. But it's a very small amount of difference. And that's kind of how it works in your scaled world. And I would encourage you that if you want another size, to use your printer or go to a printery service and change the scale to what it is that you want. But we are going to begin here with the pattern pieces. The only piece in here that needs to cut out of it is the tail and the ear. So you'll need 2 ears and 2 tail pieces. The rest you only cut out once. So let's get those cut out. I use a bit of double stick tape to hold the pattern pieces in place so that they don't shift around while I'm cutting them out, and doesn't misshape it like a pin would do. And they're too small for pattern weight, so it's just got a little bit of double stick tape on there to hold it in place so I can cut it out. I didn't mention before that I am using 100% wool felt. It's Holland wool felt, and I will put the link to the small business that I purchased mine from. But do check your area and see if you can find someone closer to you if that's the felt you want to use. I have never used the crafting acrylic felt for this pattern, so I can't advise you one way or the other, but from what I can remember of crafting felt, it should work. Please let me know if you use the crafting felt, how it goes. I went ahead and cut out the larger size of the simple pillow cat. I haven't got it sewn together, but just so you can get an idea of the scale, there it is next to Lisette. And in looking at the comparison between the original one, which actually is made for the 8th scale dolls, not the 6th scale, and putting it next to a 6th scale doll, I decided that I will actually include 3 of them in the pattern, the smallest one, and there'll be one between, and for you to choose from, since they are such simple little guys. So for our first bit here, we're going to sew from B to A. Actually, I think is easier to take the head gusset and attach it at B and then sew around to A. So use a whip stitch or a blanket stitch for this, and we'll just go ahead and do that by hand off screen. Once you've stitched your head gusset in place, you'll want to pick up the other side, and it's really much easier if you line up this part in the back up to the neck And then you'll want to stitch this head gusset on in the same direction that you stitched the first side on. So if you stitched from A to B, you'll want to stitch this side from A to B. If you did it in reverse, you'll want to stitch this other side in reverse. So off camera, go stitch that up. Now when you get back around to the tip of the nose, you don't need to knot your thread to the inside. You can continue on around to point C, but you want to stop at point C. So if you need to put your pattern piece back up here and put in a pin to let you know that you need to stop there, that's a good idea. Now that you've got this stitched up, let's stitch along the back around to my pin is representing point D. And yes, I was trying to read the pattern piece. Wasn't going well. So anyway, this is point D. So you're going to stitch around the back to point D. This little pointed spot right here kind of is a recommended location for the tail. But obviously, if you want to attach the tail differently, you can. It's not, that's why I didn't put a mark on the pattern to indicate where to put the tail, is because I wanted you to have the freedom to put it on however you wanted. But this is where it was originally. So let's stitch up that back seam. Now that we have the back seam stitched up, it's time to put in the underbelly gusset. So you want to be sure that, there's D, it needs to go towards the back, and C needs to be towards the front. And then we need to put the legs that are close to each other on. So just line up your legs. Now what we're going to do is we're going to start here, stitch around this leg, then around this leg, then come all the way back and stop here. So you go from this, we lost our focus, go from this side to this, around to this side, so that you leave this space here open so that we can stuff it. And you should be able to stuff your legs after everything is sewed together. So that's what you're going to go do right now, is sew around your belly gusset. Okay, now that we have the gusset all sewn in around, I also want to mention here that if, as you're sewing, I pinned my feet so that the gusset wouldn't shift back and forth. And when you got here to where it joins up with the rest of the body, or here, if there happens to be a gap, I didn't have that happen this time, but there's it's always a possibility. Just whip stitch on up into here to close that gap while you're there. So as you come up and around and you hit this area and it's going to have a gap, close it while you're there. Anyway, so I like to use the scraps of wool felt, especially cutting long skinny pieces and getting it down into the legs, because it makes them sturdier. And I use a set of hemostats to be able to get that into the leg. And I will take that up, if I'm not going to use the wool felt in the body, like I want to use a different stuffing there, I make sure that I take the body, the leg stuffing up into the body to like this far, so that it has a stabilizer, I guess would be a good way to describe that, so that this leg's stuffing is up into the body. That's probably a little less, or right around ½ an inch up into the body. It'll help with standing. And once we get it stuffed, then and you're happy with the way it feels, whip stitch the opening closed. Now that you've got your cat all sewn up, stuffed and then sewn up, the opening sewn up, we're going to set him aside. If you find that he doesn't want to stand up, you might need to squish on those legs and encourage them to stay close enough together to get a good stance going. But we want to move on to the tail. So you get your two pieces and I'm still stuck to the pattern piece. And of course I can't find an edge because I'm looking through the camera. All right, and then you're going to just whip stitch up and around the rounded end and back down, leaving this end with the flat open, and we'll put in a little bit of stuffing in there to give it some body, but it isn't strictly necessary. So if you don't like the idea of putting stuffing in there, if you've got it sewn together, you don't have to. It's totally up to you, but we're gonna go whip stitch that up. For the tail, my hemostats don't fit in there, so I used a bodkin to push the scrap of felt in, which apparently I can't do and look at it through the camera. Anyway, it did work. Most of this is already stuffed. You'll want to stitch your tail on, and I just kind of use a bit of a whip stitch and stitch the tail in place where I want it. And after we've got that done, we'll do the ears. When deciding where to place the ears, I like to use pins on the top of the head, and but just be mindful the points are probably going to stick out and you could get caught on them. Where you place the ears, it does create kind of the personality of the cat. This one's more straight up. These are a little to the side. And I think these ears are the furthest that I've done. But I use the pin to represent just the inside of the ear. And I wrap the ear around this pin using other pins to hold the edges, the outside edges of each ear in place until I can get a little whip stitch going and get it tacked down. Then you take the pins out anywhere in that process where you feel like you know where you're going. Then after you've got your ears on, it's time for a face. And I don't know if you can tell here, but all of these were painted. I used Posca pens to paint these on. You can use buttons. You can use, like little micro buttons, or you can use embroidery stitches. That is how most of the A-style cats were done, was with embroidery and buttons. But I decided that on these guys, I wanted to play around with the paint. And so I painted on a little bit. This one actually has blue eyes. It's not showing up on here. And then there's a black pupil. So you might be able to just see a little blue hue. Pink nose. This one's got the black nose and gold eyes. And this one has green eyes. And in each of these, I obviously dominated with the pupil, not so much the color. But that is up to you, how you want to do your eyes and your nose. I was thinking that acrylic paint with a little tiny bit of glossy shine to it would make a great black nose on a black cat. And you'll note I don't have any black cats here because they just really do not show up on the camera. But I will be making some black cats, hopefully. So then, and if I get them made, they'll be available. And another thing that you can do is if you want to do a subtle little cat butt with an X mark back here, totally, it's your cat. Do what you want. Hope you enjoyed this. I also forgot to mention that on, say, a ginger cat like this that would normally have stripes, you can use that Posca pen to create stripes, which I will probably do on this cat. So for anchoring the thread to be able to whip stitch your ears on, go in to the head with the point of the needle and have it come out slightly in front of your the pin of the head that's marking the inside of the ear, in front of and next to, if you can see what's going on there. And so you'll pull it up And the thread will just start, you know, it's just you can leave just that amount out, so that you know that you're not at risk of pulling it all the way through. Then you're going to knot it right there. And I'm having trouble seeing this. So I have to look around the camera. Okay, so we've done the whole stitch in so that we get a loop, go through. I like to go through twice, pull it up, hopefully it catches. Okay, our end went into the head in that process. Sometimes it won't catch, and you'll pull it out and you'll need to try again. Now you've got the thread anchored so that you can begin attaching the ear. And let's see, which way does this ear go? Okay, so if the ear is placed on, actually that's not going to work. So if I've pinned the one corner in place on that side, then the other corner should come around and be right there where I've anchored. And getting caught on needles is going to be part of the problem, the challenge of doing this. So you are basically whip stitching through the head, catching the ear all around, and I do kind of try to take advantage of the head of that needle to keep the back of the ear so that we have it on here in a C curve. But you might hit a point where it's in the way, preferably after you've got this part behind the head, you know, behind the ear, the round part of the C, anchored down. Let's see. I haven't gone through the head here. That last stitch was through the ear. And I think we're going out of focus a lot. It's hard to keep the camera aware of where it needs to focus. But hopefully you get the idea. And then when you get around to here, you're going to knot it and take the needle and put it back through the head, coming out back here and cutting it off, you know, outside the head, or you'll go over and start the other ear. It's a process of keeping the knots from showing on the too drastically on the outside, so that first knot I did is not really showing inside the ear because you pull that thread through the ear or back into the head and kind of give it a little tug and it disappears. Okay, I can take that pin out. Maybe I can take that pin out. I am tangled around the tail. really bad just want to go through to the other side. But that's not going to serve us. So, okay. I am attempting to bring this up in an equal distance to knot the second ear. And I do like to knot between ears. It keeps you from accidentally pulling the first ear askew with the process. I need to double check this here. Make sure. I think my ears moved forward. Yeah, this is back. Okay, so the pin's back. If you kind of look over here, it is back where the back of this ear ended up stitched down. So in reality, this pin is too far back to match. So now would be the time to adjust to make sure that my marker for what's going on, and that will keep me from pulling this first ear all askew as I try to sew on the second ear. So I folded back the ear so that I could get the last knot just inside the ear. Then I'm going to put this needle in here and bring it out the back side of the head. Tug on it a little bit, and then you can cut it off while it's snugged up. And it'll pop back into the inside of the head. And your knots and your tails are all inside the head. And we're ready for paint. Hey, we got those ears on there pretty even. Despite doing that while looking through the camera. That adds another level of challenge, I gotta say. Oh, and we got this one put together so you can see the Gigi type buddy. Here we are back with paint. He's just got a little subtle bit of striping. I hope you enjoy making your own little cat. If you do not have a pattern, there is a link in the description box for you to acquire the pattern for making your own cats, both styles. And I hope you have a wonderful day and a delightful week. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye.